Hello, my name is Sean Sperry. I am with the IBM Software Group, and in this video we're going to talk a little bit, or at least give a high-level overview of FlashCopy Manager 4.1 for Windows and protecting Exchange database availability groups. I'd just like to start with a little background. Exchange database availability groups are a built-in protection mechanism for Microsoft Exchange environments, and what it allows you to do is have databases that have both active and passive copies. The active copies are used to access mail files, and the passive copies are kept up to date using what I would describe as a log shipping methodology from Exchange. So as transactions are written to the logs of the active copy, they are then moved to the passive copies so that the passive copies are kept up to date. Now, FlashCopy Manager 4.1 for Windows and Tivoli Storage Manager for Mail does allow you to provide protection and backup for Exchange 2013 database availability groups, as well as Exchange 2010 database availability groups. Now, the additional level of protection it provides uses just the standard ways that Exchange uses to protect databases, and that is VSS backups and VSS snapshots. So what FlashCopy Manager allows you to do is take additional local VSS snapshots, either hardware supported or software supported, and store them on the local system or on the Tivoli Storage Manager server for long-term data protection. Now, there's a lot more details to this and recommendations that I could go into. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go into all of those in this video, and what I would do is just point you to these two tech notes that I have referenced here, 270.41232 and 270.41230, to get some more written details about how database availability groups work and how FlashCopy Manager works to support them, and the various different configurations and settings you could use to protect them. But I did want to give you just one small overview of best practices on how to protect database availability groups, and specifically the recommendations for doing the backups to TSM server and how we support that. And when backing up to a TSM server, what we really recommend is that from a load perspective, you probably want to back up a passive database copy to avoid increasing load on the active copies. And the way we suggest you do that is to use these minimum backup interval and preferred DAG passive parameters. Preferred DAG passive essentially tells FlashCopy Manager and TSM for Mail to, if you have a good passive copy, to pick up that passive copy as opposed to the active copy. And if you don't have a good passive copy, then go ahead and pick up the active copy when doing your VSS snapshot. Now, you can also use this /minimum backup interval to make sure that you only get one copy of the database stored on the TSM server. And what will happen is, if you use that minimum backup interval parameter, you will let the TSM server essentially arbitrate between the various different copies of the database, so that you will only, when you do the backup, pick up one copy of the database and store it to the TSM server. Now, as far as restoration goes, really your first line of defense when you're using database availability groups is going to be the DAG itself. So that if your passive copy goes bad for whatever reason, you're just going to rebuild it using your active copy. And for the most part, what your backups are going to be doing and used for when you're protecting a database availability group is things like individual mailbox restores, alternative database restores, disaster recovery perhaps if you're recovering a system off-site, or some system or some situation where for some reason there's some kind of logical corruption in the databases. So it's not only one copy of your database that goes bad, but basically all of the active and all of the passive copies, in which case you need to restore from backup. What I'm going to do for a demo for this case is take a look at this preferred DAG passive parameter on a database availability group and just kind of show you how it works. And then what we'll do is we'll take a database and we'll have a good passive copy, in which case we'll pick that up when we're doing the backup, and we'll also have a bad passive copy, in which case we'll go ahead and pick up the active copy when we're doing the database backup. So let's take a look at that now. So what we're going to do for database availability groups, watching scheduled backups occur is not that exciting. So what we're going to do is we're going to run a full backup from the MMC, and we're going to try using the preferred DAG passive and get an idea of how that parameter works. So what I want to do first is just show you a little bit about my setup here. You can see we have we're in the Exchange Administration Center for Exchange 2013, and if you look at database availability groups here, you could see I have one called CSI DAG, and it has 2 member servers. And if I look at my databases, you can see that I have a database named DDB that's active on server CSI DAG1, and both CSI DAG1 and CSI DAG2 have copies. And just looking over it here at the right hand side, you can see that both of the copies are mounted or healthy. So here's my active copy, and here is my passive copy that is healthy. Now if I go over to FlashCopy Manager, I'll go ahead and do a refresh here, just so you can see FlashCopy Manager pull back that information. You'll see I'm running on server CSI DAG1, and you can see FlashCopy Manager has recognized the DDB database, and it knows that it is the active copy. So what I'll do is, just to show you this preferred DAG passive, I'm going to go ahead and change preferred DAG passive to true, and then hide the backup options, and then do a full backup using the GUI. And now, since this is a active copy of database DDB, what you're going to see is that this database backup should not succeed. It should fail, because I've told FlashCopy Manager that I do indeed prefer the passive copy if it's good and up to date. So that if this were running in a scheduled environment, this would not be the copy that I pick up. And you can see down here that the backup failed because indeed this was an active copy and we said the preferred DAG passive. So now what I'll do is, just to show you how this works, I'll go ahead here and go back to the Exchange Administration Center, and I'm going to go ahead and suspend my passive copy. So I'll go ahead and suspend the passive copy. Let Exchange go ahead and do that operation. And then I'll do a refresh, and you'll note here that now my passive copy is suspended. So if I go back to FlashCopy Manager, and again, whether this was running as scheduled or not, if I go to do a backup and my preferred DAG passive is set to true, even though I'm backing up on the active copy, FlashCopy Manager is going to know that the passive copy is not up to date, right? Because it's suspended. So when I go to do a backup, you're going to see that now, even though I have preferred DAG passive set to true, the snapshot is going to succeed. And that snapshot, of course, could be sent to the TSM server, or it could be stored locally. We'll just wait for that to finish, and just so you can see that that snapshot did succeed. Should only take 30 seconds or so, so we'll just wait for that to complete. It did. So now I have a successful snapshot backup that could be stored locally or stored on the TSM server. And again, FlashCopy Manager was smart enough to know I don't have a good passive copy, so even though I told it to take the passive copy, I'm going to pick up the active one. I'll just go in here and resume the passive copy, and so that will set my system back to where it was, and that completes this demo. I hope you found it useful, and like I said during the lecture portion of this, I strongly recommend you take a look at those two tech notes. It will have more details about how you set up the schedules and how to best implement data protection with database availability groups.